All right, let's start the December Commercial Design Review Board meeting. Everybody welcome. Sorry about the delays and postponing and shifting and all that. Weather, what else we need? We're going to start with approval of the November meeting minutes. Any motion?
Motion for approval.
Motion, second.
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes that we need to cover? All right. All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Good to go with the minutes. First order of business in the old business is deferred till, I will not use the word deferred officially, but it's going to be in January. So
Well, we need a motion for that.
need a motion for that.
Mhm.
All right.
Can't.
You can vote to defer. Yes.
Well, I'm the architect for it. I'll vote
Yeah,
to
we
defer it as well.
Yeah, I know it's kind of, but you guys can, because you're not voting to approve it or doing anything along those lines, you're kicking the can down the road. So.
We got a motion for deferral, right?
Second.
Second. Can you discuss it? I don't think so. All right, all in favor of deferring that until January, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. That'll be on the January agenda. So first order of business, it's new business, Ladson Road Express oil change. Come on up and say your name and who you represent and
Morning. I'm Mallory Schoolfield, owner of Express Oil Change Tire Engineers. We've got a location here on Main Street that we built a couple years ago, and we're looking to do a second one. Had kind of overwhelming business, so we're gonna try and get one in at the Ladson Oak Brook Shopping Center, which is at the corner of Ladson Road and Benton's Lodge Road. There's 3 out parcels. Freddy's is in one, and we're looking to build in the one to the right of them. So anything I can answer for you, be happy to do so.
let's talk about the architecture or the site for a minute. Could just kind of explain a little bit of what's going on with the building, and then it's a conceptual review, so we're not actually, I think, not actually voting on anything. So we'll just give you our take on it, and you kind of take it and run with it and do with it what you will, but kind of get a feel for where we are with it. So if we could talk about the architecture, that would be good. And then Mike can come up and talk some.
We do have a board here, which I can bring up there if you all want. Color scheme would be the same as our current location on Main Street. The blue is kind of our signature, you know, it's an express oil change. The brick would stay the same. We've got the triangle fascia front would match the Ladson Oak Brook design now. Front of there, different shops have the triangles. We're gonna do a one building concept, so one side of it will be oil change, the other side will be mechanical base.
All right. You want to discuss the architecture before the civil, or you want to just let Mike do his thing?
I like the architecture, and I think the civil is good too. It's interesting. They don't have any street access. It's going through the shopping center, but that's fine. That's good.
Okay, we're on the architecture.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the architecture. It seems like it's not customized to Somerville. It just is another like corporate stereotype that's plunked down. And I would encourage you to do something with the design to make it look like it was part of Somerville. That's an interesting area of town over there. There's some themes of the river access and the connection to the river. There might be something in there that you can, or not, or another part of town. It just to me looks like not at all of this part of the low
Get
country.
away from the shopping center architecture, you're not too worried about that as far as the lines. I mean, the Freddy's is a little different
Yeah,
than the shopping center's architecture. So,
yeah, and I don't want to, tell you to do anything other than when I look at it, it's a lot of blue. I don't see bright blue as necessarily a big piece of this local area. It seems like it's not that blue is bad, there's just a lot of blue.
Yeah, I think on the board it does look that way. If you get a chance. I think that was a concern when we did the first building, but it honestly, more people tell me they don't know we're even there than are like, oh, your blue is standing out. So maybe just give it a ride.
Yeah, I'll take
Kind
it.
of disappears.
Yeah.
But on there, yeah, it's jumping out on the white background.
Main Street's a little different and there's so much on Main Street. You almost have to jump up and down to be seen. I'm not sure Oak Brook has that similar density and competition for visual attention. But I'll take a look.
Well, Kim,
It does look like a lot of blue, and I was gonna ask you, how does it compare to your other one? Because I hadn't ridden by the other one in a while. And, ooh, it really is a lot of blue. So, but maybe, do you have a band of blue below the roof, and you maybe could do that a little different or something?
Sure. Yeah, there is a blue band.
Mhm.
Above it. Could be done in gray, I guess.
I think that,
Or white.
don't you think that would help?
Match the center.
It might.
Get rid of some of the blue?
I think that would solve the problem.
I did too. Mhm. I
um,
think I'd pursue that anyway, so.
so. I would actually, it's unfortunate, like the blue is actually the identifying factor, because the blue metal roofs just don't, they just say, hey, I'm a prototype. And can go anywhere theoretically, but unless there's some design review. And so I would consider best they can is to kind of reconsider the roof itself, maybe gable or something to just tone it all down a little bit, because it's a bit much. And it will get, I think it will stand out there. But and Freddy's went through here a couple times because they brought their prototype first, and it had some very identifying things on it that said, hey, I'm a Freddy's. And they still maintain their corporate presence. I mean, it's obviously still a Freddy's, but they made a few changes that just kind of said, hey, this is in Somerville and not necessarily Columbia or somewhere else. So I would recommend using the blue a little bit more creatively, and actually not doing the blue roof, because I don't know of any other new buildings we've looked at in the last 3 years where we've said blue roofs are good. And we've tried to persuade people not to do blue roofs. Traditionally, metal roofs in Somerville are more black or gray or galvanum or something like that. So, and so I would agree with Greg in that just taking that design a little bit and saying, hey, we've looked around and contextually, that shopping center is probably not yeah, it's not the bar. Excuse me. So that would be my advice, to just to have them kind of design a little bit more, look around town a little bit. Hip roofs, probably not so much. Big blue metal, probably not so much. But once you do that, I think that it'll start looking like it a little more like it was. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
What's the material in the white part, the little piece? What is that material?
Split plates block. It's
Split block.
block just like the shopping center had. And we've got it at the Main Street location, and we've got the red brick here. But the fascia at the top here, and the bottom is is blind. This paint.
I think your case would be helped if you didn't show your pits, your loop pits. On the right, you're showing loop pits in the elevation. They're below ground. Really don't need to be shown on the elevation.
Okay.
All right. So we don't vote on anything, but like I said, that's just kind of
All right.
our 2 cents. And Mike drove up from, we'll let him, I know you want to talk about this. Let's,
Just answering questions.
let's take a look at the site plan.
It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it's not exactly, I think it's kind of landlocked, isn't it?
One thing, I will know, Michael McCormick, civil engineer. This was master plan for detention, and we've been coordinating with Russ Cornett, town engineer, and there's some flooding problems downstream, and we have coordinated and got approved from Dominion Energy to install a dry pond that we don't have to, just to work out downstream flooding for Russ. So that's why we can see a pond on the right and so forth, but it's master plan for it. We're going above and beyond our needs, just to coordinate with Russ to alleviate everything we can do. But like Bill said, no access to DOT roads, all internal. It's fairly cut and dry. It's only 8/10 of an acre.
Okay. Anybody have comments on the site? All right. I don't have any either. So, well, that's where we are, and look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting, or these guys will, and just kind of take the architectural comments and see what we can do to make it a little bit more like someone. That's where we are. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Thank
you.
very much. Take care. It's good talking.
All right. Next on the agenda is.
Next on the agenda is a request for preliminary and final approval for a proposed interior and exterior improvements at 907 North Main Street for I think it's Sullivan Dentistry. Site improvements include the removal of a former outdoor playground area and some raised beds and a chain link fence. Permeable parking spaces will be added, bringing the total parking to 18 spaces, including 3 accessible spaces and 2 compact spaces. The last parking space, just so we can see what we're talking about here. The last parking space in the row will be difficult to navigate. If possible, the space should be removed or the drive aisle should be extended to facilitate easier maneuverability. All parking is within 60 feet of a canopy tree, but the existing parking does not have the required 8-foot landscape border. Being a renovation and reuse of an existing location constructed before current requirements, the applicant should bring the property as much as possible into conformance with the current requirements. If possible, a hedgerow at the backside of the parking spaces between 907 and 905 North Main Street should be added. There is an overhead power line on this property line, so small evergreen shrubs should be used at this location. The landscape border is required around the proposed new spaces. Proposed planting should be a minimum planting size according to section 8.7 of the UDO.
Okay. State your names.
Good morning. My name is Chip White with Barrier Island Engineering. We are the civil on this.
I'm Lee Rodriguez with LFK Architects, and representing Dr. Solomon on architecture.
I'll start with the site. I know, thanks Tim for giving us an intro on the site. Kind of like you said, pretty straightforward. This is an existing building at 907 North Main Street. I believe the previous use was some kind of daycare facility. What we're really trying to do here, we wanted to improve the egress and ingress access there. The building previously just dumped right out into the drive aisle. So now we're proposing to take sidewalk up to 2 existing doors on the existing building to provide that ADA compliant access and also prevent people from just stepping right out into the drive aisle from a safety aspect. We are proposing a little bit of staff overflow parking that you see there to page right. We're proposing to do that. It's like a grass pave. I don't know that that parking is going to use all that often, so we wanted to kind of have it as a low impact type parking area. As far as the front facade goes, that's page left, fronting North Main Street. We are proposing a sidewalk connection out to the existing sidewalk that's just off the back of curb. And then to give it a little bit of curb appeal, we are proposing to do a small pervious paver area with a couple benches that you see adjacent there to the sidewalk. From a stormwater aspect here, the increase in impervious is minute here. I've provided some calculations there just showing that we're not increasing runoff from a drainage standpoint. And then if we want to flip down to the landscape plan, I can address some of that there. We received your comments regarding the landscaping between the existing parking lot and the adjacent property. We're happy to add that in for you. We also understand that you're requesting some landscaping adjacent to the proposed grass paver overflow parking, and we can certainly accommodate that. In regards to that last parking space there, looking at it, you bring up a good point that access could be a little bit tricky getting out of, especially if there's cars in the adjacent spaces. So I think we're happy to look at that. We're exceeding the parking count here, so we can certainly get rid of that space, turn it into a landscape island, whatever we think is best there. So I think that's mostly it from a site standpoint, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the civil component of this.
Bill? Questions?
I think you've answered all staff's comments, and those would be the only ones. My dad built this building. Yeah, it was back in the 70s, and used to be a real estate office. But whatever you do, there's not very visible. So
Yeah, it's kind of tucked back there a little bit.
yeah, it's kind of inconsequential, but what you're doing with the front is very nice.
Okay, yeah, we thought
Looks
it would
good.
be a nice way to upfit that
Yeah.
existing building without tearing it down.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I agree. It looks like some good improvements up front.
All right. We're in agreement on that. How about the architecture?
All right, Lee Rodriguez here again with LFK Architects. Tim, if you want to start flipping through the site aerial and stuff, so so this is where it is on North Main, right, driving up from Mount Pleasant. I saw it again, not super visible. Besides Title Loan, State Farm, but tucked away, there's a big holly out in front too. Next. Yeah, so these are the surrounding properties. There's a little building in the middle, sort of bluish, with some little canopies over the front that are kind of hard to see here. Dr. Solomon originally didn't really want to do any exterior improvements, but we triggered it with the ADA ramp, and so we're happy to provide what we can at the front. I think it's a simple solution, but hopefully it works. Keep on going. Yeah, the demolition plan, I think, it did used to be a daycare right before us at least. So we're just taking out some interior wall. There's a load bearing, but nothing major. We are trying to maintain the existing openings. So you'll see when we get to the elevations that the windows are larger than they were originally, but the headers are the same. Let's keep going. Proposed again with that little patio out in front, pervious. There is a hollow that it is encroaching into a little bit, but we're hoping that it will get approved anyway. It's pervious, and we're trying to keep that patio centered on the building. It's sort of odd if you move it to one side or the other. There are 2 doors in the front facade. Only one of them is functional for now, but we do think, potentially in the future could set up for 2 tenants.
Yeah, and there's an ADA ramp that we added for access in the front. The main entry is in the front corner here, the reception, and then the patient discharge is out the rear. Let's keep going. Existing roof plan, nothing much. Shingles, those dark shingles, we're going to try to maintain the existing roof. Although we're going to add gutters, but if it needs to be replaced, it will be replaced to match this thing, same dark shingles. Keep going. Yeah, there's the roof plan now with gutters and the entry canopy and patio below. So yeah, there's the existing building model as well as we can. There's a little monument sign out in front. There's that chain link fence. There's a representation of the holly. There's a big pine tree out front too. So you see what it is. So the windows are pretty wide, pretty broad, but they are short. So we're gonna keep the existing header, but we are gonna bring the storefront down to the grade. And we'll use that smaller window in the front as the entry door. Keep going. Yep. And so here is proposed. You can see we've switched out the, I think the existing is T11 siding. We switched it out for 5.5-inch exposure lap siding. And with some warmer wood accents. Let's keep going. Yeah, so you can see here, we've added a big entry canopy out in front with the 2 doors and the patio in front, the larger storefront windows. Keep going. There's another view. You see the warmer wood accent surrounds around the door with light sconces and some landscaping with the 2 benches that Chip was talking about. There's a view without the vegetation, so we can actually look at it. Again, keeping the existing openings pretty much. And there's a before and after. So no major structural changes, but doing what we can with the openings and the accent canopy and that patio, I think goes a long way. And I think, and the materials. So there's that ADA handrail. There's the timber brackets, which I think will be really nice coming in. Dark storefront to contrast and go with the sconces. The trim around the storefront will be the Tamlin extruded minimal trim. So that's why we're not really showing any width there. It's just going to be clean. And then there's a simulated wood lap siding and the smooth base lap siding. And I think that's pretty much it, Tim. Anything else? Yeah, the elevations. But I don't have anything to add here, just seeing it orthogonally. But it's true that the side you don't really see that's facing title loans, we're not doing much to. We're just replacing the windows with storefront because it's not very visible at all. We're focusing on the main entrance and the parking side. And those are the rear hollow metal doors. All right.
Yeah, appreciate it. Now we're looking for preliminary and final approval.
Yes, sir.
So we'll start down here with Greg.
I think it looks great. Big improvement to what was there.
Absolutely, it's fine. Very nice.
Yeah,
Awesome. Glad you like it.
We should have all our meetings on Monday morning. I don't have any comments. I do think it's a great improvement. So again, preliminary and final in the any motions you'd like to make?
Make a motion for final approval.
A second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of final approval, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, thanks.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job.
Thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Nice Christmas season. Lovely.
All right, I think we have one more.
Monday morning. now.
All right, so the third item under new business is a request for preliminary and final approval of for a proposed improvement to the outdoor seating area and enclosure at 903 Central Avenue, which is Low Country Fish Camp. The applicant is currently using a plastic wrap to provide additional screening from the elements for the outdoor seating area. This was not previously discussed, and staff requested a plan to address the aesthetics of the current situation. The applicant is proposing using vinyl panels with clear sections to provide visibility in and out of the seating area, which would provide additional weather protection to allow the outdoor area to remain in use during the winter. Staff recommends the following conditions: that the applicant continue to work with the adjacent property currently being used for parking for the business to be rezoned from GR5 to an appropriate neighborhood business zoning. And the screening panels should only be used seasonally and should not be used year-round to create a permanent enclosure. We had some issues with others places kind of making a temporary outdoor seating area permanent by you doing that. So this The original intent of that outdoor seating area was to provide some cover and shade during the heat of the summer. So that they had additional seating, and we think it should be more seasonal as opposed to a permanent, fully enclosed outdoor seating area.
Good morning. I want to say thank you for taking this meeting and making it happen for all of us. I'm Nancy McEwen, the Tucko, and as you know or may remember, we provided tent structure for the country fish camp when they originally built it. Chris, the owner, he did put that wrap up kind of a quick thinking because the cold weather came in. Of course, he wanted to provide more dining outside. It was brought to his attention, and although they knew it also did not look that pretty, they had in discussions with a gentleman who was going to make these screens that were shown right now. So, but they've been delayed. So, in the meantime, he requests that he can still function with some outside and additional seating to keep his business going with what he has. But what we propose is, this is what we're looking at right now. Of course, this was taken in better weather without the plastic wrap on it. But the second picture, we would do a wood framing up at the top to support this clear and solid weather protection. It would be trimmed out in black. We chose the Pacific blue because it is fish camp and it's water and it's fun and we think it's a good look. So the wood that's proposed would be 1x4s and 1x6s because those are very large timbers that are holding it. They wouldn't be thin and small, but that would be up permanently. I think the last picture shows that. But in the meantime, these plastic shields would only be used in threatening weather, too cold, seasonal more. They don't intend to have these open during the summertime. So the next one shows the fence in front of it, which we believe they'll be able to sit inside the fence. If not, we do both selections. The fence is a permanent structure there. And then that shows what the wood would look like up there, which we think it's a nice look. We did look at horizontal lines. I know, knowing fish camp, and I think you guys have all been there. They've done a canoe census. They've done some fun seasonal things, and maybe some fishing nets and such might be, and lures could be decorative up on that top. So it has been ordered as far as we know, but again, like so many things, it's been back ordered or for all the pieces and parts of materials created. So this is what they would like to propose.
Good, thank you. Good stuff, Greg.
I remember when this came in, I definitely remember voting against it. I think for a lot of the reasons that you're now coming back for. It did not look like a functional, to me, it was not adding to anything to the streetscape of that part of Central Ave. I realized that, I'm a big fan of fish camp. I was at a party where they catered fish camp a couple weeks ago. It was great. And great clientele, and it's something obviously we want to keep going, but at this point, I think you need to do something that actually adds and makes Central Avenue look better. And I was very against the original roof because I didn't feel it made the street look better. And I'm very much not in favor of this proposal because it's not making the street look better.
Do you mind me asking for, because it is meant to be outside in the environment, open, you would want something more permanent closing?
I think if you're going to have it, when you look at our weather, it's not like 2 days a year where we have bad weather. There's a lot of days. So it becomes a part of the experience of I drive down Central Ave once or twice every day, going to work, plus the weekends doing errands. And Central Ave has a lot of challenges aesthetically, but it is getting better. And we've approved a few projects on Central Ave in the 2 years I've been on the board. And I believe it will continue to get better. But this is not helping that. It's not helping the cause. There's a lot of blight on Central, but this is, I think you have to figure out what can you do to really make people stop by and say, wow, that looks like a lot of fun. I want to go there. Or isn't that really cool? That really feels like old Somerville. And when I look at this drawing, I'm like, it doesn't look like anything.
Well, this is meant just as a temporary cold weather, similar to what we see in town in the historical area. We have Laura, who has now put up clear plastic. We have what used to be the Italian restaurant, then the barbecue place, and now I think it's something else where they have put up temporary plastic. So it is meant to be a temporary cold, bad weather cover. And of course, their business is packed. So they do have a lot of interest in their clientele. I know that.
Right. I think the other projects you mentioned, though, look good without it. You know, when you take the screen down, it's not the dominant perception of the facility. Whereas in this building, that structure out front is the dominant presence.
Okay.
Just thought.
I don't disagree with everything he said. The temporary, the structure out there that you have been using just for extra seating outside is unfortunately not attractive. Okay. And I think the blue on the clear marine vinyl, I think that's horrible. Okay.
Would a different color be?
It should be clear.
Oh, the whole thing clear.
The whole thing should be
Oh,
clear.
okay.
And I don't know what you can do with the framing up there. I don't know what you can do to make that structure look better. I'm sorry. I wish, but if you go back and look at the first showing of it with it sitting there, it doesn't start out pretty. So I don't know what you do to get it that way. I know it's a fish camp and maybe it just needs something a little bit better architecturally at the top of it to kind of tie it into the existing building somehow make it look like it is the fish camp and it's in context with the other building. It isn't in context with the other building. So
you like the look of the original building? Well, I know there has been some discussion about horizontal planks there, which we've seen. An example is the Starbucks over there by Carolina Else over in the Nexton area. A lot of those buildings have the horizontal panels, I guess they would be. And bring it down lower.
well, then you wouldn't be looking at this rough roof up there. At least you would camouflage that some and bring the building down that way too.
Candy, do you think horizontal slats with about an inch and a half gap between them
That would be good.
would be better than louvers, I think?
Oh, it'd be a lot better than louvers. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it'd give the area.
yeah.
But as it's presented, not good.
Should that top be brought down lower?
What do you think, Bill? Lower?
Well,
If you brought it down.
I
Yeah,
think,
can you put it back to the picture where it doesn't show the? There you go. You need something to hide that ceiling. It is.
well, the building's ugly to start with.
Oh, it is.
So
Yeah,
this kind of screens the building. The odd thing about it is the reverse slope of the canopy going back and
Right.
dumping water on the roof instead of away from the roof of the existing
So
building.
It
Uh,
looks
It's got
like that.
very large gutter.
Well, you got a gutter. I know you got a gutter on it. It just, I think the slats would improve it. It would bring, it would eliminate what you're seeing, the airplane hangar look.
Right.
I think the slats would improve it
Okay. Can they
with the
stay-
framing that you've already got
Okay.
shown on the drawing, just put slats in there and you can put your clear plastic on the inside of those slats seasonally.
Okay. I wish it showed up better, but I have some pictures of the roof. When you're inside, I don't know, if you've all really looked up at it, but it really, the way they,
It's nice inside.
It's gonna be
yeah,
there
it
behind
really
the
is
flag,
great.
you know.
And it's nice to see people in there when it's full, having a good time, and which they do. Places packed, so it's a success. So I think the slats would let you carry on.
So we put the slides up there. We were trying to keep the cost down. And the intention is just to keep wrap for, weather. But now you're proposing and to spend more money to fix the original approved building. Is that what I need to go back and tell?
Well, I'm not sure we're proposing anything. I mean, our role is not to propose. Our role is to react to what is being presented.
Okay. So if he hung the drapes from the E pipe and didn't change the building as approved, he could do that?
We don't know. We have to see it. I mean, when you say it's like describing a piece of architecture with a book,
Okay,
you got to see it. And what I'm looking at, and I'm not speaking for the board, just for myself, when I look at it, I'm not seeing an improvement to Central Ave. I'm seeing making Central Ave a step down rather than a step up.
okay. So if we didn't.
Do no damage, I
Yeah,
guess is the
I
first
guess
step.
I feel like we didn't, we're not here to improve or change the building. It's just temporary cover so he can get the business in
I understand,
and
but
do like the most. of the
I think when you say,
plastic stuff.
to me, temporary is like a weekend in the course of a year. This is not temporary. This is up there a lot. I drive by it every day, twice a day. It's up a lot. It's way past the point where you can call this temporary.
The plastic?
Yes,
Like 3 months out of the year? About 3 months?
I can't tell you that, but it's not temporary. It's like you have to, you have to close a sidewalk so you can, that's temporary. It's not temporary. It's not permanent, but it goes way beyond the idea of temporary and perception of the quality of Central Ave. It's up there enough that it's not helping the cause of that section of street.
I think the challenge probably comes, Nancy, when we're looking at the canopy, it's kind of like he's expanding because of COVID and not really expanding, just trying to make sure that you can provide a place to eat outside. When you start applying something to the outside of it, this isn't even about the aesthetic. It just kind of becomes a really large addition to the building instead of just a canopy with plastic. It sort of becomes its own entity. And so I think that's why it's getting the reaction that it is, because now it's a building instead of, even though the structure itself is a building, obviously, but I think that's part of why the pushback, and the blue is pretty polarizing. But
There are some other colors,
yeah, I just stick with clear.
just to be clear, because there are some sand colors and some, yeah, that would be the backup color. It's not showing right there, but. So as I'm understanding, stick with clear, possibly bring that down lower and add some architectural features of some horizontal slats, like we're seeing up and around a lot of places these days. And then make the plastic just sheer and clear.
I think it would be nice to see it gone.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just kind of taking a step. on the surface, we're like, okay, we're just wrapping this thing in plastic. It's been approved and that's all we're doing is putting plastic up so that people don't get wet or cold. But it just kind of, it's just emerging and it's becoming something else in the process. And that's, some of that's going to be permanent. And so I think that's where we are.
Meanwhile, they can continue on with what they've done until we finally make a decision, correct? As far as we're concerned. I'm surprised you're even here till somebody turns you in and you're here for it.
It's time.
I called them out.
Solve it. you know.
Yeah. Bill, I called them out. I told them that they had to come in and get this dealt with because I drive past every single day.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I see it all the time.
it was not part of the original discussion. So I think that, and then what I told them when we started the discussion was that this forestalls any enforcement, so to speak. And they have made progress on that first condition that was recommended. They have reached out to the adjacent property owner concerning the rezoning of the property. That ball is now rolling. So they are, I mean, they're working with us. So I think if the board's not wanting to do preliminary and final, I say, why don't we do preliminary with comments that they come back with the exhibits to show you guys what it is that you're looking to see. So that it keeps that ball rolling down the path and hopefully we get positive resolution on this.
Okay.
Right. Then there have been a few comments. Yeah, I don't see any reason to take all that plastic down now when it's 20 degrees.
Well, when the clear plastic gets in, can that be put up in its place? And then, you know, if it comes in, I'm not sure if it's a temporary thing without all the grommets and such going on. But, or maybe just the front at least, if it gets clear, that'll make it look and last through the cold months. In the meantime, we come back in January and discuss what we can do on top. It definitely has to say.
I think that's sure. I would, yeah, I think that makes sense. If the board agrees with that, I would say he probably shouldn't paint any murals on it. Okay. We don't need to see the ocean.
Why don't they just leave it status quo
Oh, leave it as is.
until you get approval and don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff that may never be approved.
It's a fair statement. All right, so
And just keep working towards getting the solution.
all right, so the concept right now is to keep it going. She's requesting preliminary approval. Is there a motion?
I think we have to deny preliminary approval motion.
It's too much. It's gotta be done. It's gotta be rethought.
Is that your motion? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we've got a motion for denial and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
So the concept of that height is okay. We're doing horizontal slants. Or to stay in line with what we're seeing out at Nexon and in Somerville, and then clear on the. Are there any other suggestions that?
you may want to bring it down lower. The problem becomes if you get close to cutting that in half, then it's going to be, then that becomes really top heavy.
Yeah, almost like a 2/3 or 1/3 at the top.
About a quarter.
Or
Now you got 25%. More or less, I think, could be a third, it looks more like a quarter.
It's
So you want more of a third,
It's
you want more of a
0.2.
third,
You're right.
Yeah.
so we want a third,
I think you have to go with, when you get it in SketchUp or whatever, you're looking at it, I think you just have to look at that. Because if we say a third and it comes back and it looks really heavy, I know where you're going. You gotta cut it out.
so we're moving forward with a third, okay.
Well, you
Just-
could
it's a
break it
visual
down
thing,
so
too.
that it's Same as the invite of the building
Yeah.
behind it.
That is really short.
Well, yeah, it is.
That'd be hard to do.
I
I
would,
think I can almost actually.
I would say rather than look at it mathematically, look at it graphically and
Okay.
aesthetically and,
Okay.
because the math may fail you on how to get there.
And then the fence has order and.
For me, the real objection to it is looking up at that roof line, at the inside ceiling. It's very unattractive.
Well,
So,
we already kind of approved that though, so.
well,
Yeah.
that's all right. We have a chance to
Yes, of
change
course.
it.
I like it with framing, so I like the way it looks.
I do too, inside, it's really, it's the pass through.
Inside, it's fine, but
That's
looking
okay.
at it from the street is a different
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I think that the idea is just not to. Certain things are done during COVID that needed to be done and as we're moving forward, as you're looking at potential changes to it, then we just don't want to, we don't want to make those kind of decisions hastily. So. Okay, that's good.
We'll be back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tim, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, let's, is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion adjourned.
Second. All right, on favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion has carried. You're done for the morning.